Manuel Smith, he actually is the elected, president for the Philadelphia chapter for the Black journalists, as well as, set it up, works for NBC/Telemundo.
Yep, NBC 10.
NBC
10, right.
By the way, so 4 times, I think, just so you guys know, not I'll still get props. I got some I got some people who I know at Channel 6. But, at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. in the last ratings book, NBC 10 had the most watched newscasts.
Wow.
That's to you.
That's big.
Listen, let's commend you on your new electoral vote of being the Black president of the president for the Black journalists in Philadelphia. That's
Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
That's
That's
amazing.
Amazing honor.
That's major.
So thank you for joining us. I think we actually here at the Drop Night Show want to pick your brain.
Okay.
Period. You know what I mean? Because you have so much knowledge about, everything when it comes to entertainment and basically what we do here at the podcast. We talk about it all,
Just before we get started, I don't wear suits all the time. I didn't even know it was
you
video.
You look very good.
I had another
Show the
event
camera
going
how
on.
good you is. Show the camera how good.
Amazing.
No, but I was like, this
amazing.
isn't my usual thing.
okay.
We talk to
yeah.
each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want you guys to think that, I got to be Tom Brokaw. It's not.
No, that's
me.
because you're Manuel Smith. Okay.
But you are our first guest with a suit on. That's fact.
Now you make me feel
That
bad.
is
That
fact.
is super fast. And I'm not mad at
I'm not
it.
mad.
Right. So, though, let everyone know where you're from, a little bit about your background.
So Philly is my hometown, actually.
Okay.
I grew up here in Philly. Anybody remembers University City High School? That was my high school.
Yeah.
Got my first job in news right out of high school.
Wow.
But you mentioned me being a newly elected president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, which is the first association of black journalists ever, like in the nation.
Wow.
Started right here in Philly. But
That's amazing.
but for me though, it's almost like a transition because I felt like, as a kid from Philly, there was no natural like, oh my God, like I'm sitting in class and I want to be a journalist. Like there was no
Right.
natural track just for that.
Okay.
And so especially as a black journalist, it's important for me to make sure we have pathways to make sure we reach back. For a while, I worked on the Fox National Desk in New York. I used to commute back and forth from New York. When I was a little boy, my parents had an apartment. We had an apartment at Broad and Glenwood. And sometimes they would take me up to the, just watch the trains go by, just to have something to do. Your little boy. I was tearing up the house. But man, every day, you take the Acela to New York or whatever, and I had a different position in New York. But it was a reminder for me every day to go by that station, see Joe Frazier's gym, to see Broad Street, and to realize that, even though I had this position and things to do, I had a greater responsibility that people were counting on me to do something different.
So what really got you into wanting to write?
What got me really so so the thing is that my job is much more of like a news manager. So I do write. That is part of what I do. But as an assignment editor, it's kind of like you're the frontline coach. Like imagine I'm a coach of news. So my job is to figure out everything that's going on, anything, everything. I always tell people like when I come in, it's like drinking from a fire hose for 9 hours. Like I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm taking phone calls.
Yes.
Like reporters are coming with tips, writers are coming with tips or whatever, and it's just deciding, based on what we're doing, what our shows are, what's going on the web, like what are the stories that are most important that for Philadelphians to know right now.
Right.
And sometimes that's what the mayor says. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the shooting. Sometimes SEPTA is messing up, and sometimes it's going on all at once.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to figure out how we cover that in the best way possible. And so the main thing I feel like in my position, again, to be a black guy who's from the city, who looks like the people who walk and live in these streets, to kind of like be that voice in the newsroom, to kind of like, hey, even though that happened on 52nd Street, it's just as important as what happened
in Center City.
in Center City.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I'm really interested in kind of delving more into that because my full-time job is a publicist. And I pitch to NBC constantly.
Yes, we get a lot of phone calls. You probably talked before.
We might have, because I definitely call before events like, did you get my media alert?
Was that nice on the phone?
Everyone's been nice. Honestly, I've had a really great relationship with NBC. For my clients, that's probably the main outlet that has worked with me and brought my people on consistently. So I love NBC 10. I'm so glad you guys are downtown now.
Thank you. Yes, I know.
Going to Bala, I was
I'm
like,
glad
oh
we're
my
downtown
goodness. Yeah.
You know what the funny part, I was just talking to another group of students right before we came, and it was a PR person who asked me about what makes a good PR person. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, I know you guys get paid, you get these clients, they really want to see you working, and they want to see you drop the 4-page press release. Mm-hmm. And my thing is like, that never, ever, ever gets read. Like, never, ever.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was about to be like, and now I want to ask them, what do I need to be doing differently?
Put it up front. Anything up front. Who, what, where, when, and why. And most importantly, what I'm going to get out of it.
Absolutely. Really, that needs to be in the first paragraph, right? Well, I will say none of my press releases are ever more than a page, because I already know that's pointless to send. But that's good to know for the people out there that don't.
People doing their press releases, they always tell me like, "Oh, this person's been on Channel 6." I don't want to know that.
Right.
I'm always like, yeah, you just yeah, that's a rookie mistake.
Don't tell me what the competition
right?
is.
No, why would you ever mention the competition? Right. That's a rookie mistake. But no, I'm really glad to have you here, because this is like, you're within my industry, so it's cool.
No, this is good. Do I get the rapid fire? Like,
yes.
Do you want it?
Yes,
yeah,
you
give it to him.
Do you want it?
You
now?
Give it to him right now.
Listen, you are not excluded for none of this.
Give it to him right now.
Speaking of rapid fire, okay, we have a thing on the Drop Night show where we ask our guests, these rapid questions, and we're gonna get into that right now.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
So you probably got a little insight because you got to hear it through Chill and them, but we can switch it up a little bit for you. So Mara, let's see what you got.
We can definitely. I mean, I didn't even get through all of them, so I can hit you with some of the ones that they didn't. I'm not sure if you're an investor, but if you are into that, Bitcoin or stocks?
Stocks. I'm an old man. I'm like 39.
Do you know anything about Bitcoin? Have you looked into it at all?
I saw a little bit about it on Greenleaf.
Yes!
That's honest. I'm not mad at that.
I'm not mad at all.
You better not get into Bitcoin.
That is a good show. That's good writing.
Yes,
That's
it
really
is.
good writing.
It's definitely good writing. You know what? Actually at the Black Journalist Conference, they actually came to speak, and I usually don't go to celebrity stuff.
What?
Okay.
But they came, and the thing was they came and they were really open. And what was really kind of like exciting for me was that all of them on the show are like Christians, like real Christians, like outside of the show. And so their main thing is like, yes, it's drama. Yes, we get a little over the top. But, it's a lot of stuff wrong in churches. And so they're invested as real Christians.
Talking
and like,
about the
yes, and people, like black churches, everything is known to be secret. So they are actually giving people tools to start dealing with stuff. And to me, it was like.
The Preachers of LA was a good segue into knowing about
that actually
churches.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot.
I'm a little biased in the sense because I feel like it's all about money nowadays. Like the churches aren't really about how when we grew up, it was about, just having a congregation of people who, needed encouragement and needed help and it needed some type of substance or something form of faith. Now it's about the money. Did y'all see the IG and the Facebook of the preacher that was coming down?
Coming down on the thing, yeah.
Well, you all saw it because you attacked
Come on, like.
So theatrical.
Is that what y'all doing with the church's money now?
Exactly. Is that where the ties are going?
Putting retractors in the sky.
I'm not here for that.
Listen, I think that when you guys talk about these things and these are real issues. Yeah. Just on background, Sean and I work at the same place, and we just met the other morning. I think we were supposed to have like a quick minute, like to have coffee in the lobby, and we just started rapping for almost like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, looking over every 5 minutes, make sure the supervisor didn't see you. I know, right? Got the
like is HR around?
But you know what? Right. So even a show like Greenleaf, we were talking about like how our industries might be a little bit different, but they're really kind of like all in the same. And so to me, it's kind of like, man, that's like the amazingness of Oprah. And so I always remember from the fact that, like, you know what? She was kind of like reporters like me, like beating the streets, doing a story every 3 minutes at a time. But then she was able to take that into a talk show, and now, you know, she was doing movies, and now she's like created a network for other people to have these voices to talk about these unique, complex Black stories, so that we can really start to approach and attack some of our own issues. And just the more that we can do that as a creative circle, like to really, you know, just like Chill was talking about, like, you know, we got to do something different to capture these young minds, to get them off the street, but talk to them in different ways. Like, I work at NBC 10 News, but I'm not under the impression that anybody in 8th grade wants to sit down and be like, it's 6 o'clock, I got to watch you on NBC 10. You know what I mean? So what's some other ways we can get some real issues in front of them?
Right.
That they can, you know,
and
talk about.
That's important. And I feel like with you understanding that and actually acting on it, because a lot of people talk about it but not really acting on it. And I'll be the first to say, because like you may have heard, you know, my life story is definitely one of highs and lows, you know. And it is important to get to these kids more specifically than anything, because they are our future. And not for nothing, they will be the way that, you know, us as a culture, us as a people transcend. So how do we get to them and to a point where they understand? Because everything that they're into nowadays is about the now. It's about fast. It's about
it's a microwave society that they've grown up in. Immediacy.
Well, you know what? So I've got a couple friends who are like really into art, and sometimes, man, you know. So the funny part is, like, I'm sounding really woke and awake right now. But then, like, you know, I go home and I got, you know, I'm going through it right now. I got 2 teenage girls, 14 and 16, 13 and 15, and so sometimes when some of these issues come up, I'm not, you know, as progressive as I can be at home, struggling on like both ends of it. But you know what? To me, you know, when artists really remind me, yo, like, you know, sometimes you have to like appreciate the art for what it is and step from behind it. And so, yes, I may not necessarily want to hear cursing all the time, but yo, that's somebody being real about their situation, about what they want to express. And so
and how they know how to express it.
Yes, and so, and I shouldn't down it just because it's certain coming on a beat that I'm not used to. We gotta really give them these opportunities. It's not natural, you know, and even if like I'm out there being a mentor, you know what I mean? So it's never ever going to be like, no matter how nice I am or how great a journalist I am, that a 15-year-old is just going to come up and be like, hey, Manny Smith, I heard you with PABJ and I'm struggling with my sexuality. That conversation is never going to happen. But it might happen in a song or a poem or in some other form of creative speech.
And 9 times out of 10 it does.
And then how do we empower like people like you guys too? Like I was even talking to Sean, like he's a producer. Like, you know, how do we get kids into a good point? Like, oh, you got something really good to say. You're good at communicating in this way. You know, put some beats to it, and then you got a career.
And but though, more importantly, how do we get people into and kids more so feeling like they don't need to just be a rapper, or they don't need to be just a athlete? How can we get them interested into journalism to where they can be into a position where you are,
and
Manuel?
Be very more expressive.
Right, like, because you know.
You guys want some real talk on that?
This is real. We are only about the real.
And I'm only I'm from Philly, and so Philly is my heart. I just think that we need to be present to show kids that there's a pathway to do something different. I think especially for us who kind of like make it as African Americans in the city, it's always like, all right, I made it, now I'm gonna zoom up, I'm gonna get out.
What are you doing to pay for it?
You know what I mean?
Okay, right.
It's the funny part is like you gotta like make something different. Like now, like we just mentioned, we just moved downtown for the Comcast Center, and so sometimes when it rains and we have to go outside and do something from time to time, we have an NBC 10 jacket. Yo, I wear it on the bus and the subway, and people look at me so unusually, but no, that's how life gets me. Like, you know, I've got a nice, cool job, but I can't afford to park at Comcast Center every day. I take the Broad Street line just like you. To me, it's showing other people people, like it doesn't make me exceptional just because I have that opportunity. And I think that we just need to have more like that for our kids. Like, they need to see us going to work, see us putting in the grind, seeing them in, what happens when we take the suits off. I think especially, calling out like people like members of our city council. Like, it's hard for me to see them down at City Hall every week having white parties and doing this thing, and kids are dying literally up and down Broad Street every single day. And as a black guy, how can you not see those kids that look like you, that was once you, and you don't do anything to address it?
And I want to make this movement transition because I think what you just said translate to something that's about to happen this weekend. We have a major fight going on with, what's his name? Fury and Bruno. Right. Yeah. So you may have seen it from a journalist perspective. I know I seen it on Instagram, and I actually had to comment on it because I was like, wow. Broomer actually was, they're about to take their pictures to do their promo and stuff, and he started to get in his feelings about his people because he heard Fury say something about my people, we fight, all this stuff. And then he took it to the transition of like, my people have been fighting for 400, Broomer said, my people have been fighting for 400 years. And now there's this whole race card thing going. And now there are people who are mad at him because they're saying that he's pulling the race card. And I just say that it translates back to like a Colin Kaepernick. Like, if these individuals, these black men, who of any sort can absorb melanin. All right, I don't even want to call it like a black or white thing.
Brown people.
I want to call people who have a melanin and those who don't. Right. All right, and it really just boils down to that. Melanin, for those who don't know, is sold on the stock exchange. It's $1 billion thing on the stock exchange. Yeah. No one really knows that, right? Why?
So my thing with that is that, yes, I think that we've got to get to a point that we've got to, and I don't want to sound like I'm a flag waving American or whatever, but we got to remember that we all live in the same place together. Yeah. One good example is, and I got my PABJ hat on just for the record at this moment, but I was never like a huge fan of the Megyn Kelly show, just personally as a person. Yeah. But here's my thing. I kind of feel like maybe her getting fired for her talking about blackface was an overreaction. To the point is, I think a lot of white people really feel that way. Like, to them, it's like, hey, it's 2018. I'm your friend, you're my friend. We hang out with each other. We go to Starbucks. So why can't I wear a little blackface and we laugh? And so my thing is, if they can't come to us and really express to learn why they shouldn't do that, or really not afraid to ask me how I feel about it, then they go back into the corners, and then they get embraced by racists, and the problem continues to just keep going on. So I think in our nation, we all just have to remember, like, we just have more together. And
precisely, and I do totally agree with what you're saying, but I also feel like this has been something that has been going on for eons, of time. I just can't put it into words of how long it's been. And now we are in a country where we have a president, not for nothing, who isn't the most comforting person when it comes to equality. All right. And so he's a major skeptical. That's all he lives for, is the limelight. And that's real. Like, before his presidency, all he cared about was being in front of a camera and some way making money off of him being in front of a camera.
I take it as, I think, a certain population of people, and maybe a certain age of people in this country, just a lot of radical change that's happening right now. And I think they're acting out in fear. They're acting out because they're nervous. They're afraid of losing.
But what are they nervous about?
Anybody's just afraid of losing what they have.
Change of power, the structure of the country, the structure of the country,
being a more predominantly melanated country.
Well, that's what I mean. The power of this nation was built on non-melanated people. Yeah. So to see that shift in power, which, whether they like it or not, is pretty much inevitable just based on numbers, because there are more of us, we know that, in the world. There's more melanated people in the world than there are non-melanated people. But in specifically speaking about our country, I feel as though, we know that the white man basically runs our nation. And they want to perpetuate this image of this power structure, knowing that it's falling and it's not as strong as it was, not nearly as strong as it was. So I think with unfortunately, the help of certain media outlets, this, unrealistic power structure is still being perpetuated, and they are feeding this beast, and people who they know will kind of like line up behind it because they're not educated.
Correct.
They're
And
not.
it's fear, like you said.
It's really more about that. It's like the ignorance behind
ignorance
it,
and the fear.
and like
So
you were
I used
saying
to
with
work-
Megyn Kelly, it's an ignorance thing.
I used to work at Fox News, and the funny part is like it's weird when you live like on the East Coast and the West Coast. You know what I mean? And so we just know like spaces are just small. Everybody's always together. Black, white, Spanish, whatever. And I just think it's really weird when you see people like Bill O'Reilly who are like go out and sprout. Oh, I'm a real American. You know what I mean? Well, when Bill left the studio, it'd be like his limousine with the Spanish driver would take him home at the end of the day, and that's not what the guy in Kansas really think is going on.
At all. The guy, right.
So we have to do a better job of just
Educating ourselves.
Yes, and making sure that people know the fact from opinion. And I'm not going to say us as journalists have to do a better job too of making sure that we don't let people mix in with us who are not doing the same. I always make the analogy. At the medical association, I'm pretty sure the nurses aren't hanging out with the cardiologists. You know what I mean? Like we have to be just the same to preserve the integrity of what we do.
Right.
And with that being said, how does a network that's reputable like an NBC and Fox, if you came from there at one point, how do you compete with now this blog universe that literally has, to be honest, kind of taken over as far as like the outlets where people are gonna go get news? They're thinking TMZ is like the place to go because they're quote unquote breaking everything.
The funny part about it is,
how do you compete with that?
Is that, by the way, at my station, we have one of the things I'm attracted about being at NBC, and I think more people in Philly should know, is that, which is unusual for a television station, we have African American news director at NCO Williams, but also an African American vice president and general manager,
Wow.
Rick Williams, who are really putting it down. But the one thing that Rick always says is that as much as every day that we're in the television business, we're in a competition against Candy Crush business. You know what I mean? Like it's yes. The thing is, if I want you to watch at 6 o'clock, I can even.
They're like, look, I'm on level 10. I can't pause.
Yes.
I got to finish.
Listen, now because everything's on every device, I'm like competing. I might even be competing against your boyfriend. Like, please don't text her at 6. I'm watching my show.
Don't listen to the drop at 8.
Right. Here we go. Yes.
The drop, right. That's so true.
How do you guys
It's
compete
good
against podcasts? And it's funny because we have you here, but it's like you all, like, now if I watch MSN, one of my best friends in childhood anchors is Tremaine Lee.
Oh, wow.
He's a very major. He's
amazing. Yes, he just got another award like not too long ago.
Tremaine is phenomenal. We'll have him on the show soon. But he actually is about to start his own podcast, and then they have Rachel Mordak. I can't even say her name. We have everyone pretty much now knows they're making the transition into the smartphones and the podcast.
I think that here's the funny part. So now that I work at NBC, by the way, it's funny. So the secret is that we get like really discounted cable. So I have like every cable channel.
For free. Oh, let me find out.
I always tell people
I
that
need a
too.
job.
Like any single guys at Comcast should bring that up. Like, yo, I have every channel of like
Every
cable.
channel.
Like, you want to leave your relationship?
You got the porno channel?
Yeah, he got every channel, every single channel. I'm telling you, Sean, you got to bring this up.
Let me find out. Okay, I'm gonna need you to start
That's
recording
why he
them
was
and
asking
sending them
about
to me.
toys.
But here's the thing. So, and not just promoting Comcast stuff, but the funny part is like, so if you have Comcast, everybody knows about X1, which kind of like brings everything together, Xfinity or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like my kids like are just X1 kids. Like that's how they watch television. Everything's on demand. Everything's on Netflix or whatever. And so to me, it's kind of weird when I come home. I'm like, hey, did you see what I watched? And they have no idea because they have no relationship with the fact that the news comes on at 6 o'clock. It has to be on demand for them all the time to watch anything. Yes. So for me, so I think for us as news, it's important for us to push our apps and what we're doing on Facebook and on social to kind of keep those brand consumers together. So we kind of try to be like NBC 10 everywhere you are, we are.
Okay.
That's that brand. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That makes sense.
What and this is and as we come to conclude this interview, because I feel like we need to have you back. You know,
Okay,
I feel
all
like
right.
we
Yeah,
need to
'cause you're a
have
good
more
conversation.
of this.
No
And I feel
After
like we
Tremaine Lee, though, Tremaine's gonna blow your mind.
No.
That makes sense.
you guys equally, I think, are on the same platform.
We
But I feel-
haven't even scratched the surface of who he is.
I don't,
sure
I
we
don't know
have
if this
it.
is necessarily the spot. I feel like we need to do like a in the day and time. Like we need to follow him and see how, take him out the
Yeah.
suit.
I need like an album cover. That's what he asked for the other thing. We gotta work on that.
Yeah, you just have
album
your
cover.
name up
But I
there.
wanted to ask you, what is the hardest part about being a journalist and more so about your position today as the president of the Black Journalists Association and just NBC?
That's unfortunately, it's an easy answer. So I go to church on Sundays. Not to
Okay.
be like super proud of myself, actually.
No, you should.
Kind of new.
You
on my-
should.
new-
Amen.
New,
You're in
new, new,
tune.
new on my Christian journey. But the thing is, I always work Sunday nights,
Okay.
and it's hard that the level of violence in this city. And so the thing is that I'm there all night and I'm listening to the scanners and I'm sending the crews, and sometimes you can't cover everything. And so the hardest part for me is sometimes it's just making that decision, like, man, someone just got shot at 22nd and Market, and then someone got shot at 22nd and Cecil B. Moore, and which one am I going to first? And you guys know the decision I kind of have to make because that's what more people are interested in.
Right.
But man, every day those type of decisions bother me. Like, no one speaks for that person who died on the street on Cecil B. Moore, and there's 16 and 17-year-olds and they're shot 3-4 times. Even if they survive, just that level of trauma. And I just, my question is what I really think about is I think about my daughters. And so I think about eventually they're going to have boys come over, hopefully not too soon. And any boy wants to be home too late or come over, I can parent against that. You know what I mean? But if I look a guy in the eye who's been shot 4 times and
I
yo,
expect
you
you to
know,
be really
do I expect him to even fear me or want to respect my daughter or hear what he has to say? And these kids have this type of real trauma, and nobody in the city speaks for them.
Nobody.
Wow.
And that is the part that
is
bothers
major.
me.
That is really major. And that's something I never really thought about.
Yeah, we got to capture these kids, and it's an everyday thing. This is their normal life. I mean, listen, you guys, and I mean, you were in Philly, but even in your cities, I mean, you guys, we aren't pretty much all the same age. Remember, it was a shocking thing to hear somebody got shot in school. It happened once
Right.
Oh
a
my
year,
gosh,
and it was oh my god, that person got shot.
Maybe, a couple times.
It was a girl who, just being real. I remember a girl, I kind of liked her, and it was a guy, he got shot. And he got, one of his balls got shot off. They had one ball. And there was, and that's all we talked about.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's all we talked about.
You
in
can still
10th
make
grade.
children with the other one, right?
Yeah, you just need. I don't know. I'm not a man. You just need one.
They shot your balls off.
I think you just need
good
one. Yeah,
he
just
just
one.
had one.
Okay,
But
so he had one.
Yo,
good
but
one.
that's all we talked about for a year, and that was the biggest thing that ever happened. But these kids get shot 4 or 5 times, and they go back to
And they're desensitized
Yes, and,
at this
and it just becomes normal, and we
Right.
just. And Philly has got to do something. I don't have the answer. Whoever's got one, I'm willing to work with them on it and do whatever I can do. But we have got to do something for ourselves. It's not about the police coming in to fix it.
No.
We have got to do
No,
something
we definitely
ourselves.
don't need
about
no
it.
more police
And
getting
today,
involved.
yes.
But
That's
oh
not
my
the
God.
answer.
Manny, we definitely have to have you back because I feel like with you taking this new position, you could be that. You could be that,
Yeah.
starting a program of some sort for these kids. And I'm wondering what is there a goal for you with this new position as the president?
What we want to do is just really kind of again, strengthen those pipelines so that we can bring young journalists here.
Yes.
For the journalists who are working and telling their stories, there's some good people, Vince Thompson, Ernest Owens, again, who are young and old journalists doing incredible journalism in this town. It's something else too, we have to get back to the days of the PABJ being a bully pulpit, you know what I mean? And it's hey, you know what, you're not coming for any of my journalists, you know what I mean? And to be serious about the Association of Black Journalists, you know what I mean? Hey, it's good stations in this town. town, but really, I need you to open your books and tell me how many black people you got versus white people, and I want to know. One of the things we're going to do that we're trying to organize very soon is that, mayoral primaries coming up. We need to have a black people's debate here in Philadelphia. There's more than 50% population in this city.
I'm so for it.
We want to ask just black questions. It's not excluding other people, and other people are willing to come and participate, but you just can't ask a question. This is about black people and our issues, and we want to know where the mayor, whoever wants to be the mayor, stands on the issues that affect us the
You're
most.
about to make me cry because I feel like that is long overdue. No one ever wants to talk about the black people's issues. Like, we always get overshine or silence or whatever, like a blind eye to the situation, and then when we do bring it up, we get fucking blackballed or some dumb shit like that. So I'm sorry I had to cuss, but
No, it's all right. No, it's
that's
my heart.
real.
It's real talk. You know what the funny
It's
part
so
is? Like a
real.
while, I
You
lived in New
touched my
York for a
heartstrings.
little bit, and the thing was, the black people on New York City Council fight their city council before police brutality. And to me, I'm calling out Philly City Council. Y'all need to be
called out.
Fight on everything. Listen, the Columbia Avenue, or Cecil B. Moore Avenue.
Cecil B. Right.
Yes, can we get a street sweeper on there? Can y'all just be fighting for that?
So
I would love
rapid
to see
fire. Are you Malcolm or Martin?
Martin.
Martin. Okay.
I go with Martin because I thought, my thing was I think he had balls to say, hey, everything was for everybody. You know what I mean? All black people need to be free. Doesn't matter if you were gay or straight or short or tall. We're just gonna make this happen for everybody. And anybody who's about but he's about, hey, we're gonna bring my people along on that journey, and I love that. I always respect that.
So are we saying you're gonna do? Would you do Netflix and chill, or would you do rooftop party?
Probably a rooftop party, but I've been married for a long time now, so that's probably just a fantasy right now. But I just get the Netflix and chill all the time. 'Cause we can't get a babysitter to take kids to the movies.
Good book or good movie?
Definitely a good movie.
Okay.
Good movie.
International or domestic?
Real talk? It's Christmas time. I'm broke. Domestic.
And that's a fact. Hashtag that.
Government politics or conspiracy theories?
I would say government politics, really. Conspiracies. So.
Your answer.
Yes.
Empire Power.
Empire or Power?
The shows.
Oh, listen, I'm a true fan of Power. That's the truth. The true fan
Power,
of Power.
right?
Yes, Power, yes.
Or how are you feeling about the last season?
I thought the last season was.
Are you like?
Listen, those people have 9 lives. Can you imagine that? And the thing is, that's amazing. It's even Omari Hardwick. It's man, you're running from the cops, going to jail, having sex,
That happens in real
feeding
life,
your kids.
though.
And then,
Believe it or
and then
not.
you got a 6-pack. I'm like,
Right.
we gotta have him on about some type of real men talk. How am I falling down on my
do it all
game?
and have the body.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Ghost is doing something. We need
Yes.
him on here.
He
Yeah,
on
he is
drugs.
too. I'm
He on drugs. It's called drugs.
Oh my gosh. Are you an iPhone or Android?
iPhone all the
All
way.
the
On my
way?
iPhone, yes.
Okay.
Although it's
Have you
weird,
ever
I'm
owned a
so
Droid?
No.
Okay. I haven't either.
Make sure you check your iPhones because apparently in West Philly they sell.
They're selling.
some bullshit.
You know the crazy part about the iPhone?
I can't believe that one.
I'll be here.
Here's to the other iPhone users, they not making you feel special anymore. It's
Anybody can have a
last
all my,
year I spent $1,000. I have an
got
iPhone
the
X.
X? Okay.
Yo, it's discontinued. It's not even a thing anymore.
No.
I'm
No. I know that was a special limited edition.
No,
So they
this
have-
wasn't. The iPhone X was not. That's not
It
what they
was
said at the
supposed to be, I
time.
thought that
Right.
it was just
They- whatever
because
they
it
gotta
was
do
the
to
10
sell
for
you,
the 10
you
years
know.
or something.
Listen,
I thought it was.
don't believe the hype. Yo, listen.
I didn't get
It's
it.
a real
Let's
talk
get
for
into the
everybody out
last
there.
quick one.
I had a Mac that was 3 years old. Yo, that hard drive died. Yo,
Oh,
I
that's
took it.
old.
No, I took it to the Mac store. Yo, they was yo,
They don't sell the parts.
They said it's 3 years old.
Yeah.
I'm yo,
Like,
I
it's
just felt
obsolete
yo,
after 3
Yeah.
They don't even respect you.
They play
Yes.
you. They play you. Right. They know what's up. They want you to buy a whole new drone. A whole new drone. It's terrible.
What's the last
the
rapid
last
fire?
What's the last one?
Make it good. Make it good. Make it spicy.
Make it
We gotta make it spicy
make
for
it
men.
nasty.
Just-
Make it
you know
nasty.
what I mean?
Make it nasty.
homegrown or enhanced? Because with you being a married man, I'm really curious about this one.
I wish he didn't think he had the suit on right now. Huh? He was like, damn, I could have
All right,
I need
listen.
civilian clothes at this point.
Okay, listen. I'm gonna keep it all the way real. Because the thing is, yo, I was just talking to somebody else. People were like, yo, how do you get all your tips and stuff like that? And I was like, yo, you gotta really like be like online. You know what I mean? Facebook, Instagram. But I kind of work overnight sometimes, so that's stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
And, yo, they say like, I want to say real, but yo, like some of the stuff like you see is like. Right. I just like it's like you remember when you was like 3, you see a fairy tale, like, oh my God, that's the big bad wolf. I'm like, yo, I did not know it was real.
That ass can be that big.
Especially on Instagram. In the photos.
Fake and it's moving like that. Where I get that ass?
Yes.
Honest.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it too. No, I ain't gonna lie.
No, for real.
See, Instagram gets people in trouble. That's
Yeah.
The gram,
that time in the morning. Yes.
That is Snapchat, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And Tumblr. Tumblr is out.
Tumblr. Oh.
Tumblr is out.
Tumblr is some freaky shit. I ain't gonna lie. If you don't got Tumblr,
Tumblr, y'all know.
that's for them freaks. Oh, you a freak.
See, y'all know we coming to the end of the show now.
Oh,
Y'all
yeah,
getting
we
people
getting on
warmed up
now.
and ready now. They all
He's
think
starting to sweat now. All right, that's how we know this shit get real. Oh my gosh, Manuel, we're so proud of you. At any time,
so proud.
Please.
You're
Yes.
home. You're home. That the Drop Night show is your home.
Oh,
At
listen,
any
I'll be
time.
back all the time then.
Yeah.
Please.
All the time, okay.
I mean, if
This
we could
is
work out a
awesome.
little segment of having
Right, where we
Manny's
have
minute.
Manny come
We have
in.
Manny's minute.
Spit.
That would be
Okay.
dope.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd
So
be
we gotta talk
awesome.
about
When I come back on my single, maybe.
Yeah.
Sean,
we
you
should
gonna work with me
know
on that?
Oh,
If you want to
oh, yeah, we can
freestyle,
work on that.
It's gonna be called.
that.
His single it's gonna be called IG Gets Me in Trouble. That's the name of it. That's the
the
name of
late
it.
night,
Right,
the
that's
late
the name of the
night
album.
shift.
Yes, Sean. Yeah, we have to work on that for sure.
Title of the song, Late Night
He
Shit.
probably got,
Yeah.
he probably got like 6 pages. How many pages you got? Right.
It'll probably work until my kids be like, Dad, could you stop embarrassing us?
I'm not a parent yet, but I'm like excited, but also like I don't want my kids to be like, you're not a cool mom, because you think you're cool still as a people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do your kids ever kind of make you feel like you're not as cool as you think, and you're like, but I'm
Well,
tapped
so the
in.
thing is that like you have to remember, like kids just play a psychological game, like
It
you know what I
seems
mean.
like
And so
it.
you just know as a teenager, that's their thing, like not to admit that you're cool. You know what I mean?
They like want to do everything to bring your cool factor down.
Yes.
Like, you're not cool.
So
You're like, yo, did you hear that new Takashi?
and then you gotta know,
No.
like then you gotta learn how to.
Keep up on the dances.
You gotta learn how to
know
play
the
it. Like,
dances.
is
Like,
this
that's what y'all
live?
do.
Is this live? Are we live right now?
No, we're not.
Okay, all right. So listen,
Off the record.
You gotta learn how to change the game.
Okay.
Listen, yo, my kids, like, I'm not cool right now, but yo, I bought a PlayStation 4. Yo, that's like,
Oh.
listen, Christmas, that's under the tree. That's like a good 6 months.
Oh yeah, you got the cool.
It doesn't even matter the
Got
whole
you.
PABG.
No,
I got
matter.
elected. No,
Right.
that's not
They
cool.
don't
I
care.
got the
He
PlayStation.
gonna play until Christmas and he gonna wear them out till Christmas time. Like, yeah, y'all thought. He
Right.
packaged it up all nicely like it
so
never
good
been
at this?
touched.
Right.
That's how you gotta play.
Yo,
it,
that's
you know,
gonna be awesome.
Especially these days, you know.
Smart.
So
Even-
get
I
them
got
the
a-
right gift.
I got
and
a
then
4-year-old
it's cool.
son too. Like that's the whole thing. Like you watch Nick Jr. the
So
commercials.
you making babies.
But
Cause
that's-
this man, he got sperm for days.
In 4? That's a
we was
gap.
almost free, but I had to have a son. I just, you know.
Them late nights at the
That's
NBC,
good.
he came home ready. Like, yeah, I was on IG. Bitch, what's good? What's good? I was on IG and Snapchat, bitch. What's good? Bust it. I was like, no, I'm sorry.
Bust it.
She write my memoirs right there.
Look, I didn't have too much fun tonight, but look,
Yo,
we're gonna have
Tonight
to
was
wrap
awesome.
it. But do you have IG?
Yes.
That people can follow?
Yeah, it's simple. It's just at Manuel Smith.
Okay, so everybody make sure you go follow him.
Follow.
Definitely stay tuned on everything that he's doing. Look, he's a force in the city that everybody needs to know about. And again, thank you so much for coming here and being so transparent with us and honest and fun at the same time.
No,
you got a suit on, so you wasn't uptight. You know what I mean?
Listen, no, not at all. That's my thing. So we gotta come back and just talk about music. I would love to do that.
Yeah. Oh, and he's a music connoisseur. We didn't even get to get into that. So we
he used to work at Power 99.
So, oh my God.
Yo, but you know what?
It's a lot about him.
Can I give y'all one little thing before I went? Because somebody, you know, you just like find stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yo, just somebody had like just a compilation of just how many times Mariah Carey has hit like the whistle note. Like nobody has ever done that. I'm like, yo,
I've seen that compilation.
And like lately,
I watch stuff like that.
Lately, I felt like Mariah's been off her game, but it made me go back deep into the catalog. I'm like, oh man, like I've been living today.
I promise you
Apple
that
Music.
it's the same thing that happened to me. I went back and was watching her old videos, emotions, like, this is the ghost.
Had a vision.
How did I forget? Right, vision of love.
Remember that time we didn't know if she was
is.
white or black? Like, I just couldn't like figure it out.
I always knew she was black.
She looked black.
But she had bad marriage.
Is she black?
Because once she started to,
She claims to be. She
once she
does claim
started to
herself
let the
to be a
black
black
out,
woman.
that's when they tried to shun her. Remember, they started to try to stop
because
her?
a little bit of background, like she definitely was in
She
with
had
Sony.
ODB. Like, hello.
She
I
was
like
trying
to
like
let
when
it
Mariah like talk, she's like, no, I'm a New York woman, black woman. Like she wanted to have more hip hop sound, but it wasn't really allowed until
They didn't want
later.
to let
But
her
she
out.
did have her crazy moment when she was dating.
Absolutely, but her new album. Have you listened to the new album?
No, I haven't listened to anything.
It is giving emancipation.
Really?
That's my favorite album
It
from
is
her.
so good. Caution, like, please listen.
I gotta listen.
I honestly listened to it over the weekend because my friend was like, "Yo, Mariah's back."
You
Like,
can
this is
listen
so
to
good.
Mariah, but you don't want to see her on stage. I'm sorry. She's a horrible performer.
You's a lie. You a lie and the truth ain't in you. You's a lie.
This is her on stage.
I can't. Well, we're not going to a Mariah
The
show.
Drop Night show is out. Y'all make sure y'all follow
She got to
me.
protect all that fake stuff.
And you will never
Manuel
catch her on stage with a sneaker,
We know Mariah's not a
and a whole full
Manny.
gown.
Follow
She's
Manny
a vocalist.
on social media. You will not sit here and talk about Mariah
No,
Carey.
we're not
okay?
going to
That's
bring
what
the
you
queen
won't
down.
do.
She's a vocalist, she's not
She
a
got to protect all
dancer.
that
Drop
fake
Night
stuff.
Show, everybody. We're here every Thursday at 8 p.m.
Her
Please
body is
come back.
looking.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
she
Actually,
is.
we're taking a whole month of December off.
Yes. Really?
So we will be
Right.
back fresh and new in
Brand new.
January.
Y'all going on a trip?
And
But we will be
I
playing
go?
old shows, so still tune in
we're about
next
to be
week.
in DR with the fake boobies and shit.
Oh my God! Look at this, honey. I'm not coming home.
It's a wrap. Danny crossed over. Peace. It's a Drop Night Show. Thank you guys. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
We'll see you in 2019.